Hey, this is René. Welcome back to another video on this channel. And today we will have a look at button clicks. So this was requested several times. So I want to show you how you can write an expert advisor in MT5 that can react or first of all catch button clicks. So for example, if I press an E on my keyboard, I want something printed somewhere. So let's have a look at this. And later on we can combine this with pretty much anything. So we could say we want to open a position if we click a specific button. So let's start with the programming already. So if we program or want to program something in MetaTrader, we can click on Tools, MetaQuotes Language Editor. This is the tool that we use. So here you see the code already. This is really super simple, but we will write a new expert advisor for this. So I click on New, Expert Advisor, click on Next. Then I provide a name, button, click, bot. Doesn't really matter how you call it. You click on Next, Next, and Finish, and this will create a brand new expert advisor. There are a lot of lines that we can delete right away. So first of all these gray lines and the properties can be deleted. They will not affect the program at all. So these gray lines are only comments, and the properties are only a information shown to the user of the program. So when we work with button clicks, we will have to understand how the MetaTrader works. So in the MetaTrader, there are several events that are predefined. For example, there you have an event. And if I click on compile, this will turn the MQ5 text file into a working expert advisor. So if I click in the MetaTrader and check the navigator under expert advisors, I will see button click bot there already. So if I drag and drop this onto any chart, and if I click on OK, this will automatically trigger an event for this specific expert advisor because it will trigger the onInit function. So everything that is inside of this function will be executed once the expert advisor is attached to the chart. Similar things will happen for the onDinit because this function is triggered whenever the expert advisor is deinitialized or removed from the chart. So you can see there are several things that can happen in the MetaTrader, which will then automatically trigger an event in the expert advisor. And this is because the MetaTrader is built like this. So in the code of the MetaTrader platform itself, there will be some interface, whatever, that will tell or that will take care of triggering specific functions in an expert advisor if there is something happening in the chart where the expert advisor is attached to. Same goes for the onTick function, which is also a built-in function for any expert advisor pretty much. So this function is triggered whenever there's a tick. Okay, so I told you in the beginning that we want to capture button events now. And these button events are they fall under the category of chart events in the MetaTrader 5 platform, pretty much. So if we have a chart, and if we, for example, drag the chart around, or if we put something inside of this chart and drag and drop it, these are chart events because they pretty much interact with the chart. And same goes for mouse clicks, left and right, whatever, or button clicks. They are all under this umbrella of chart events. And there is a function for this to capture these chart events. So we already figured out that there are these three built-in functions that capture, like for example, the initialization, the deinitialization, and the onTick event. And there are more. So if we have a look at the reference, in the reference, which you can do by clicking on Help, MQL5 reference, and then you can click on this index tab here, and you can search for chart event, and then you can click on any of these identifiers pretty much. And there you can see the types of chart events. And you can see there are 11 types. We wanted to talk about the event handlers first, right? So event, or if we search for onTick here, and you can click on onTick, you can double click it, and you can see there should be some. If you scroll all to the bottom, you can see event handling functions, and click on this link, and there you can find all the event handling functions. You can see, for example, there is an onStart, there is an onInit that we already talked about, there is an onDinit, and onTick, there's also an onTimer function, there's an onTrade transaction, but we are searching for one specific chart event, which is the onChart event function. So all of these functions that you can see here, onTimer, onTrade transaction, they are all triggered automatically by the platform. So the platform realizes, okay, there is an expert advisor attached to this chart, so I will trigger the function, the onTrade function for this expert advisor if there is a trade in this specific chart, for example, or if there is any trade, pretty much. And same for the onTimer function. So every, for example, second, I will trigger the onTimer function for this specific expert advisor attached to the chart. And yeah, so these functions are always there pretty much for every expert advisor. And we have the option to fill them with useful source code. So what we can do here is we can say right now we do not have the onChart event function in our code, right? So what we can do is we can go to this entry in the reference, and we can just copy and paste this signature of the function. So I click on copy, I go to my source code here, and I paste it at the very bottom. And you can now see, if I compile this, there is a problem because the onChart event does not have a body. And this is because I will have to remove this the semicolon, and I will have to add the body for this onChart event function. So like this. And the body is always wrapped by two of these curly brackets. If I compile this now, we can see this works. So if this is a little bit confusing, these are just the parameters of the function. So like any function, the predefined event handling functions can also have parameters. We've already seen this for the onDinit. And these parameters, they will provide data for us that we can then use in the body of the function. And this data is brought to us by the MetaTrader. So when the MetaTrader triggers or calls this onChart event function for our expert advisor, it always provides these four variables. And these variables are filled with data. And of course, they do not have to look like this. You could also write it in one line like this. If you just like rearrange it a little bit, maybe this looks better for you. Doesn't really matter how you like it. So you can have it like this in one line, and maybe you can even move these brackets here, or maybe you can move them here. It doesn't really matter as soon as they're in the right order, right? So what we have here is we have four parameters, and the easiest way to check what these parameters do is to print them. So I can write print ID, lparam, dparam, and I always add like one space in between of them, so it's easier to read. And these lparam, dparam, sparam, and ID, these are just the names of the variables. So if I click on compile now, we can see, sorry, our program, the button click bot, is still attached to the chart. And if I click somewhere in the chart, there is a something happening here. So you can see it gives me some information in the expert's journal. And this is because the chart events that this button click triggers, they will give these this information. And yeah, same goes for example, placing an object or dragging and dropping an object. Whoops. If I double click it and drag and drop it like this, you can see there are a lot of events that are documented in the expert's journal. And you can see, if we have a look at the information here, the information is always a little bit different because the first number here, it is the ID. So let's have a look at the ID. So click on chart event with your cursor and F1 on your keyboard, and this will open the on chart event entry in the reference. You can of course always search for it like this, but you can also click F1 if your cursor is in the name of this function. And the ID, it can be anything, any of these identifiers. So you can see, for example, this is the one we will use later on, but yeah, you can see there are IDs for example, for clicking or for dragging an object and everything. So this is why the ID is different if I do like different things. For example, if I'm dragging and dropping, it's ID 2. If I click, it's ID 4. If I delete an object, it's ID... No, it shouldn't be ID 0. Okay, this is something else, but important for us is every chart event has its own ID. And this is why we can now search for a specific ID. So you can see there is an ID chart event underscore key down. This is the identifier. So I can just copy it. And now I can write if ID is equal to this identifier. So if ID is equal to chart event key down, then we want to print this line here in the expert journal. So if I compile this and if I go back to the chart and if I add another object and if I do something here, you can see nothing really happens. So we do not print anything. But if I press a key on my keyboard, for example, I press the H now, you can see there is a information. And 0 is the ID for the key down event. And you can also see if I press Q, W, E, R, T, Z, U, I, O, you can see there's always like 0 on as a first information, which is the chart event type pretty much, which is this key down event, and the second parameter changes. So we should have a look at the second parameter here. So you can see if we go back to this on chart event, the second is the L parameter. And if you scroll down here a little bit in this on chart event entry, you can see for the keystroke event, the L parameter is the pressed button code. So every single button on your keyboard, it has its unique code. So if I press, for example, A, it will always have the code 65. If I press B, it's 66. So A, 65, B, 66, C should be 67, D, 68. So it's always like this. So we can go ahead and say if L param is equal to 65, I think, print A was pressed, like this. So if you click on compile, you can see if I press A, it says A was pressed. If I press B, it does not say A was pressed, right? So it only happens if I press A, which has the ID 65. So what I can say here is, what I can do is, I can do something like, I can define something, for example. So I can say I define button or key A, and I give it the number of 65. So this will say, this line will say for this expert advisor, for this program, the term key underscore A written exactly like this, like all bold and with this underscore, it will be replaced by 65 in the code. So I can say key underscore A, and click on compile again, and this will not change the program at all, but it looks a little bit cleaner, because what we can do here now is we can say define key B and it is 66, or we can say key C 67, like this, right? And what I can also do now is I can, for example, say I want to have B as a buy button and open a buy position if this button is pressed. So what I can do is I can move this in this if statement, and I can search for another button click. So I can say if L parameter is key S, for example, we will have to look what S is. It is 83. So let's go back to my program here. Key S is 83, 83, like this. This will open a cell position. So print S was pressed, like this. And now we can say that we want to open positions here. So whenever we open positions, we usually use this trade class or ctrade class. So we can include it like this. And we can then say, yeah, let's just create a global object variable for this, like this. And now we can say if B was pressed, we can say trade by, and we open 0.1 lots here. And we can say trade cell here with 0.1 lots. So if we compile this and go back to our program, we can see if I click A, yeah, nothing happens because I removed everything, like the text and everything. But if I click B, we can see B was pressed and we try to open a position. Unfortunately, I just realized that I'm recording this on a Saturday, so there is no position opening, of course. But if you try this on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Oh wait, I can do something else. I can search for, do I have Bitcoin here? Because we should be able to trade Bitcoin on weekends. Where's my Bitcoin? Bitcoin US dollar. So if I open the Bitcoin chart, if I click, if I attach my button click bot here, click on OK. So you can see if I click A or W or E, nothing happens. But if I click B, we see B was pressed and there is a buy position. So you can see this buy position, 0.1 lots, it was opened because I pressed this button B. And I can also go ahead and press S. So you can say now there is a sell position. If I press S again, another sell, 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 sell. So whenever I click S, there's a sell position. Let me close them real quick. And whenever I click B, there is a buy position. Okay. So this is how you can work with these button clicks. So the most important things are adding, adding this on chart event function to a program. Just copy and paste it from the documentation and then check the ID. So what specific chart event are you searching for? And if you found one, then you can check these other variables here. And they all have data, and it depends on the ID of the chart event pretty much if this data is useful for you. If you want to capture these key down events, it's mostly the L parameter that is important. And you can just check what key has the specific, or what key has which number. For example, B has number 66, and this will never change, by the way. It's always 66. This is defined somewhere in the MetaTrader code. And S is always 83. So you can just search if this is 66. You can write it like this, like this, or you can like define a name for this key, which is like the cleaner way, I think. And then you can say you want to do something. You can do anything pretty much if this key is pressed. You could also say if this key is pressed, I want to close positions, or you can open positions, or you can modify positions. You can add in break-even stop. You can do whatever you want. And this is not really useful, what we did here, because we could also use this one-click trading. But maybe we can make another video where we build on top of this EA and where we'll have a look at pending orders. Because placing pending orders is not that easy, because you will have to add you can add a sell limit here, but what if I want to open a sell stop here? I think there's no predefined and easy way. I cannot do it with a right click. I will have to go here, for example, and say buy stop. So maybe we can work with these chart events one more time in the next video and build a little bit more complex expert advisor. But first of all, let's have a look at the code again. This is a really easy program, easy code. Oh, and we could also remove all these other functions. We do not need them, and the program still works. So if I click B, position is there. So we do not need the on tick and everything. So this is the program, really easy, 24 lines of code. Copy it to on your own PC and play around with it, and make sure to subscribe to this channel so you do not miss the next video where we will build a little bit more complex expert advisor that can work with pending orders. So stay tuned and see you next time. Until then, have a great time. Bye.